Victory has defeated you, Batman.
One of the things I actually quite hate about working with Arcanaut is Anders and I tend to have kind of similar mind patterns, and he'll throw these ideas at me that just make no sense. We were going to try and basically grind up seashells in the similar process to the dark matter process, but we hoped we would get blue material. We could call it blue matter, and we were so proud of ourselves. And we tried that, and it sucked. It absolutely didn't work. Arrogantly, I thought I could just grab a handful of seashells and stuff them through the espresso grinder that we use for the dark matter, and it would be great. And I was radically incorrect. We got gray sand. So we came to this. This is the new hotness from Arcanaut. These are blue mussel shells. Local blue mussel shells. Actually, we've partnered up with Sweden's biggest organic blue mussel farm, and they rocked us up with 10 kilograms of blue mussel shells. Doesn't smell as bad as you would think. I do have cats and seagulls following me home most days, so that's something to think about. An entirely new process needed to be cooked up for this. So what we did was we actually had to come up with a pre-sanding process, because blue mussel shells, when they're alive, have a black membrane on the outside. It's called the periostracum membrane. Once they're dead, it turns brown. Usually when you see a blue mussel shell on the beach, it's been washed up and down by the tide a bunch of times against the rock and the sand, so that's all been worn off. So they're usually quite blue looking, but when we get them, they look like this. Not especially handsome. After our initial process is done, they look like this. And you start to really get a sense of this fantastic blue color on them. The entire shell isn't blue. In fact, I would say there's about maybe 1/8 of a millimeter layer that actually has all this blue pigment in it. So first we needed to come up with the idea, then we needed to design the material, then we needed to design the process to get the material, and then we need to go back 2 steps more, and et cetera, et cetera. This is what I most love and most hate about my job, because it's the most idiotically non-linear process. But once you kind of tick off all the boxes, this is one of the most exciting things I've really ever been a part of, and I'm so bleeping proud that this is finally coming out. But what we call the Havender is a bit of a play on words of havet, which is Swedish for ocean, and of course lavender, because as we were getting this blue material out, it's not blue. It's a very light purple. Well, we can't call it blue matter anymore because it's not blue, can we? So it's the Havender. What we're going to do now is we're going to sort of walk you through the process, how we go from that to that. That. One of the interesting things that we actually came about during the research phase of this is the shell of the blue mussel is actually divided up into 3 subsections. Down here in the base, this actually is almost more like a horn shape. This is much thicker and much less flexible, of course. Zone 2 is actually where most of the usable material comes from, because it's a good mix of thicker material and flexibility. When you get to number 3, this is right at the end. If you can see, it's paper thin. So from this, you actually get a lot of small chips from along the edge, which means you're not getting that really fine powder that we need. You're actually getting little physical chunks, which doesn't look ideal on the watch. The top part, that actually comes off in slightly bigger chunks as well, because it's on this kind of thicker horn part there. So we actually found that zone 2 is where you get the ideal Havender material. I had to learn so much about these silly blue mussel shells that I'm just a little embarrassed by it. But when you work with gold or silver, you can Google, and there's, 1,000 years worth of information on how to work with gold. Nobody does this. So I Googled what I could, and one of my more brilliant moments, I found this process that was about using like a special boiling saltwater process to help remove this dark layer, this periostracum membrane that I talked about. And I thought I found a really great process website, and I got through to about stage 3 or stage 4. Do this, add this, get it to this temperature, add the salt. And then step 5 said, now's a good time to add garlic. And I went, it's a recipe. It was a recipe for like mole frite or like friggin' blue mussels. And I'm like, this is gonna be the ideal way to get this off. Oh, no, now you add chopped parsley. I just felt like the biggest moron on the planet. Research doesn't always work. This is the most fun part of the process for me. This is when we're actually extracting, if you can call it that, the Havender material from the shell. The outer layer is what we're after. It's paper thin. You can almost see through it in the light. If you go all the way through, the shell will shatter in your hand and you can hurt yourself. What we do is we use the Dremel and we're removing that layer. While we're working, the small vacuum here is just sucking up all the dust, and then later we use the filter in the vacuum to bang the dust out, and that's how we got the Havender material. And that then later is cast into the dials that go into the watches. Okay. Memories of 2019. Now, what we're gonna do is pop these apart and take the filter out of the inside and actually show you exactly how much material that yielded for all that seriously skilled work. So that is about what we got from all that work. If you can imagine how much material it's going to take to make, whether it's 30 dials or so in the Havender series, it's a very, very involved process. It's not at all linear. It involves a huge amount of discovery and failure. But that's, I think, what we like about it as much as we do. The pieces will very shortly be available on our website. Limited series, purely because, as you can see, it is such an epic pain in the behind to get enough workable material to actually create a larger series with this. But as it is, we are exceptionally proud of it, and thank you very much for listening. That would have opened, it would have been even cooler. Hands it to me sideways. I'm like, ow, it's cutting, but it's still... Let me open that for. There we go. There's beer in it. I like that. Who's a big winner? James is a big winner. Get out of my studio. I'm just going to go sit in the hammock.